I'm getting back into YouTube now, but I want to get back into the swing of things with a kind of a St. Patrick's Day inspired video. Firstly, here's a short clip of Jordan Peterson describing a very particular issue some people have with alcohol. And I am one of these people, 100%. Just listen to this.
At least one type of person who's prone to one type of alcoholism got a very, very powerful stimulant effect from the alcohol during the time that their blood alcohol level was ascending in the 10 or 15 minutes after they took a drink, especially if they took a large drink fast or multiple large drinks fast. But if you're one of these people who get a real kick on the ascending limb of the blood alcohol curve, then you can just keep pounding back the alcohol and it'll keep hitting you and keep you in that position where you're on the ascending part of the blood alcohol curve. And you can probably tell if you're one of these people if you can't stop once you get started. So if it's like you have 4 drinks quick and it's like, man, you're gone until the alcohol runs out or till it's 4 in the morning or till you've spent all your money or you've been at the last bar in town or that you're sitting on your friend's bed after everybody's gone home from the party and you're still drinking, you might suspect that you're one of those people. And if you are one of those people, well then, you should watch the hell out.
That's me, guilty as charged. I'm not an alcoholic in the sense that I gotta drink often. I could easily go a week, a month, 6 months. I don't even think I drank in 2015, so I don't have a problem like that. My problem has always been if I have one drink, if I have one fucking drink, cannot stop, cannot fucking stop. For me, the first drink is like the first domino. You don't have to knock the first domino, but once it's down, you've set off an unstoppable chain reaction. Who knows how many dominoes are coming down after that? You ever see in the movies when there's a speeding car and the driver presses on the brakes but the brakes don't work and then there's a look of panic on their face? Well, that's a pretty good metaphor for me at a birthday party. It's like I've had 15 beers, I don't want to have another 15, but how the fuck do I stop this thing? I mean, shouldn't there be some kind of internal mechanism that allows me to stop drinking like a normal person? That's a perfect metaphor. When it comes to booze, my brakes ain't fucking working. They don't work. They don't do anything. If anything, my brakes act like a second accelerator. It's quite the personality quirk. Now, Jordan gave a few examples of, blowing all your cash or sitting on a friend's bed or whatever, but I've actually got a story that exemplifies it perfectly, so fuck it, I might as well tell it. A few years ago, and not that many by the way, I was at a house party, partying all night, drinking like a motherfucker, until eventually, as is likely to happen, the fucking booze run out. No more booze, party's over, Jesus fucking Christ. So, about 6 in the morning, I'm walking home, pissed off, there's no more beer, and just as I turn a corner, there's a guy hanging from a first floor window. He's hanging from the windowsill. And just as I turn the corner, he slips, he falls, and he lands smash on his back. It was brutal. I mean, I was looking at him, I thought, Jesus Christ, this guy's definitely fucking dead anyway. But miraculously, he got back to his feet. I mean, I was shocked. And his girlfriend explained that they were locked out of their apartment. They've been standing outside, freezing their asses off for hours. And at this point, I thought what every rational person would think. I thought, that's terrible, but I'm not about to risk my life for a couple fucking strangers. However, just as I'm about to walk away, that little personality quirk kicks in, and I cannot stop myself from asking a question. I said, hey, you guys don't got any booze inside that apartment, do you? And the girl is like, no, sorry. All we got is 1 or 2 bottles in the fridge. I said, 1 or 2 bottles? 1 or 2 bottles? Jesus Christ, you should have said that earlier. Hold my jacket, sweetheart. I'll be in that apartment in 2 fucking seconds. And that's it. As soon as I know there's booze in that apartment, now there's 3 of us. Now we're all in this together. Or we're all locked outside their apartment now. Unbelievable. So I hand her my jacket, and what I gotta do is, there's kind of a tall chain fence against the wall. And I gotta climb up this fence. And climbing the fence is the easy part. Once I climb to the top of the fence, I have to stand on the top of the fence. because I gotta stand on the top of the fence and reach up and grab the fucking windowsill. So I've got nothing to hold on to. So I climb the fence, and I'm slowly standing up, and this fucking thing is shaking under me. It's like a surfboard. It's shaking around the place so much. And bearing in mind, I'm fucking drunk here. And so I slowly stand up, and I start kind of edging my hands up the wall. And eventually, I'm on my fucking tippy toes on this fence, and I manage to, with my outstretched hand, just grab the fucking windowsill. And once I get one hand, I can throw up the other hand. Now I got both hands on the fucking windowsill. I'm still basically standing on the fucking fence. And I can tell you, it wasn't pretty. I didn't look like Steve Martin from, Roxanne. This wasn't Cirque du fucking Soleil. I looked like a drunk guy trying to break into a fucking house. Anyway, once I got my fingers on the fucking windowsill, I can start to drag myself up. And once I'm halfway up, I can get a forearm on the fucking windowsill. And eventually, I've got both my knees on the windowsill, and I just kind of fall in the fucking window. I basically roll into their living room. Jesus. And as soon as I get in, I go straight downstairs and I let the couple in. My fucking ass I do. As soon as I get in, I make a beeline for the refrigerator. I'm rummaging through that motherfucker like it contains the meaning of life. I grab the 2 beers, I stick one in my pocket, I crack the other one open, and I take the most satisfying slug of beer I have ever fucking had. Sensational. In fact, I don't think you can fully enjoy a beer until you've risked your life for it. Delicious. And then it hits me that, oh yeah, there's a couple assholes freezing their nuts off outside. So I run down, I let them in, and the story has a happy ending. But that story could have very easily had a tragic ending. Because think about this. If I had got to that fridge and there was no beer in there, I probably could have had a fucking heart attack. I probably would have dropped dead in the spot, died of shock. No, I tell you what though, if I got to that fucking fridge and there was no beer inside there, I probably would have just climbed back out the window, dropped down on the street, said, fuck you guys, you lying piece of shits. Anyway, the reason I'm telling this story is just to illustrate how bad what Peterson described can get. I turned that corner in a pretty bad state and literally saw the worst case scenario. I saw a guy fall from the building, land smash in his back, and only by the sheer grace of God get back to his feet. And despite that, 2 minutes later, I was standing on that rickety fucking railing, edging my hands up the side of the building, because I thought this might just be one of those stories that ends with me having a beer in my hand. And it was. Thing was fucking delicious, as I've said. I believe Jordan Peterson calls this the archetype of the retarded decision maker, and it's quite the burden. Anyway, that's my little story, and in honor of St. Patrick's weekend, I want to play a couple clips. Now, there are very few people on earth can make pure self-destruction through alcoholism sound as charming and downright lovable as Peter O'Toole and Richard Harris. If there's a Hall of Fame for legendary drinkers, those two are in there. Those two motherfuckers are in there, and they're drinking. The first clip is probably one you've already seen, but it's worth watching again, just to see the art of good storytelling. The fact that Peter O'Toole is curiously dressed up as the Joker is just an added bonus. Enjoy.
Well, there's one in particular which I'm fond of. It's my friend, the late Peter Finch. Mm-hmm. And we were in Dublin together on the Lash.
Lash?
That means usually having a drop of something cheerful.
I see.
And then doing a lot of leaping and shrieking and saying, why not? And Finchy was living about a few miles out of Dublin, and I went back with him to his house where we were going to spend the night, and it was not too late, about 4-ish.
Mm-hmm. 4 a.m.? Yeah.
And there was a tiny little hole-in-the-wall bar. And we thought we'd just drop in for the last one. Mm-hmm. Well, we went in and we had a couple of drinks. And the barman, and it was a tiny little, really dirty little place, he said, boys, You had enough. You're having no more. So Finchy and I said, no, we're having much more. No, says he. You're out. So we bought the bar.
There you go. Problem solved.
The following morning, I woke up and Finchy said, do you know what we did last night, mate? I said, no. He said, we bought a bar. I said, what? So immediately on the telephone to cancel checks, but they're not being cashed.
Oh.
So we went to the bar, and there was a man with the 2 checks. And he said, now you 2 boys have got to behave yourselves. And we fell for him. I mean, he was such a sweet guy. And he hadn't bothered cashing. He gave us the checks back, and we tore them up. About a year later, we used to pop in there every night on the way back to Finchy's place. About a year later... about a year later, he died. So Finchy and I went over to Ireland for the funeral. And because we got to know him a little bit and his family. Went to the cemetery, and there was this group around the grave, the family, sobbing noisily, and Finchy and I joined them on our knees. And a woman came up and tapped me on the shoulder, and we were at the wrong grave.
Sorry, it all counts. Oh, my.
Now that's a good story. These guys, they were just a different breed. They were thespians who cut their teeth on a stage, they knew how to enunciate, they knew all about comic timing, and they were used to entertaining large crowds. But even beyond that, with guys like Harris and O'Toole, you get a sense that, for them, a good story was almost like social currency. Harris especially, he took tremendous pride in his ability to entertain a crowd with a good story. And it's a joy to watch a master like O'Toole in action. I mean, if you compare that to some of the rubbish on Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon, like I recently came across a clip of Jimmy Fallon playing a game with Jason Statham, where they drew cards and then they threw water in each other's faces. Like, how fucking low does the intellectual bar have to be for that to even be considered entertainment? I mean, if you try to play that game with a child would be like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Could you just point me in the direction of the nearest Xbox, please? Jesus Christ. It's unbelievable. I don't want to spoil it for you, but Jason Statham does not find water in the face fun. You know what he probably finds fun? Snorting coke off beautiful women's tits. Well, he is 50, and he's a bit of a health nut, so he probably got over his snorting coke off beautiful women's tits phase 15 years ago, so I don't know what he finds fun, but not this. Not fucking this.
You know what? This is the most fun game ever. I've never really liked it.
This is the most fun game I've ever played. I mean, who is he kidding? Here's the worst part, by the way. 20 million views, 150,000 likes for a clip in which there is not a single recognizable shred of humanity in the behavior of either man. In fact, I don't even like calling Jimmy a man. Jimmy Fallon is not even human, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, he looks like a human, but I've never seen him exhibit any human-like behavior. Jimmy Fallon would fail the Turing test. 2 men throwing water in each other's faces and laughing hysterically. Of course, in terms of pure, mindless drivel, the 2 Jimmys got nothing on the king of mindless drivel, James Corden. And that's how it goes. You start with Jimmy Kimmel. As you get dumber, you graduate to Jimmy Fallon. And before you know it, all of a sudden you're watching James Corden. It's a slippery slope. It'll creep up on you. Carpool karaoke is so bad, it's very bad. That's how bad it is. You know, a couple months ago, Elon Musk sent a rocket into space, and he was wondering what to put on it. So in the end, he put a Tesla Roadster on it, and you could actually watch it floating through space. And I saw that, and I thought, yeah, well done, Elon, but what a wasted opportunity. They should have had James Corden in that Tesla. He could have been doing carpool karaoke all the way to Alpha Centauri. Like the last episode of Carpool Karaoke should have started with that yellow Star Wars writing coming down the screen. In a galaxy far, 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 far the fuck away from us, James Corden is annoying some aliens with his little karaoke shtick. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Peter O'Toole. Peter O'Toole's drinking buddy, Richard Harris, was a wild man in the best possible way. And there's no wackadoo games on this show. Here's an interesting, charismatic man telling an interesting story in a charismatic manner. What a crazy fucking premise. Enjoy the story of a storytelling master.
I remember, I tell you a great story. Can I tell you a story?
Well, that's sort of what these shows are all about.
Oh, I see.
This dovetails nicely for us. Yeah, go ahead.
Well,
Why a story? All right.
there was the two guys who there were three of us, legends for drinking, okay, and for having a, rough, kind of a wild Rabelaisian life. One was Richard Burton,
of course,
Peter O'Toole, the great O'Toole, and Harris. And O'Toole and I did a play together down in Bristol Old Vic, which is a very famous theatre in England. And during the play, there's about 15 to 20 minutes when actually we're not on stage. So every single night, we'd come off stage together, dash across the street, duck the taxis into the bar. And we'd be throwing back beers and beers, watching the time, making sure we got back on time for our cue, right? Uh-huh. Well, one night, we got so engrossed in telling stories that we forgot that we were on stage. And the next minute, the door burst open, and the stage manager came rushing on and said, "Harris, O'Toole, for God's sake, you're on! You're on! There's a full house waiting for you. The play has stopped dead. Come on!" We dropped our drink quickly down our throat, rushed across the street.
Must have been wasted.
No. So we dashed across the street. We were ducking taxis, ducking this and that. I dashed in. I had to make my entrance just before him. As I hit the stage door over the town, I heard my cue. I thought I'll never make it. Dashed up the stairs, dashed across. Pause on stage. Harris is not on. O'Toole is not on. I just dashed on, tripped over a wire, slid right across the stage, right down to the footlights, and hung over onto the lap of two or three sort of Bristolian old women. And O'Toole was to come on next. And this woman looked at me in shock as my sort of head was in her lap. And she said out loud, "Good God, Harris is drunk." And I looked at her and I said, "Madam, if you think I'm drunk, wait till O'Toole makes his entrance." If you think I'm drunk, wait till O'Toole makes his entrance.
Another great story. I'm going to play one more from Harris, and one thing that's worth mentioning is that these men, they came from a different time. A time where it was almost socially acceptable for a man to have a pair of balls swinging between his legs. I mean, have a listen to this.
I did want to mention, it is Valentine's Day, and you have a reputation for, the many loves in your life. You've been married how many times?
Twice.
You've been married twice?
Twice.
Okay. Yeah. And you've had romance difficult for you?
No, they threw me out. I must tell you, I am the closest friends of my two ex-wives. They were totally justified throwing me out. I mean, I was impossible. Totally impossible. Never there, never here, never home, always away somewhere. I tell you a funny story, actually. My first wife.
I don't think you can miss.
Okay, my first wife was divorcing me, right? And she had this sort of very shrewd lawyer. And my first wife is a sweetheart, and she's a sweetheart. Today she's my best mate. But her lawyer never told her. But he hired a private detective to follow me around London to build up a kind of case against me. There was no need to build a case against me. Just open the newspapers, and there was cases against me.
Just say it's Richard Harris.
There it is. That was a justifiable divorce on her part. So I was tipped off that this guy was following me, and he was watching every move I made. And I found out his name, and I found out his home number, and I kept it in my pocket. Well, about a month afterwards, I was in the Dorchester Hotel in London, and I was really drunk. I drank about a bottle of vodka, no, a brandy it was actually, right? And it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I thought, I'll have some fun. So I get his card out of my pocket, and I ring him up to his home. And a very tired voice said, hello? And I said, are you Mr. So-and-so, the private detective? He says, yes, I am. Well, this is Richard Harris. You can hear that. Because he didn't know, he didn't think I knew. I said, well, I gotta tell you something. I said, I am pissed drunk. I don't know where I am. Could you please tell me where I am?
Put him to some use. If nothing else, put him to some use. Oh, boy. I hope...
How's that for humanity? You know, that's a celebrity I can relate to. You could do a lot worse than spend half an hour watching old Richard Harris clips. The guy just had a real love of life and a great ability to see the humor in his own flaws. You know, laugh at his mistakes. And if, unlike Jimmy Fallon, you're human, that's not a bad way to be because, you know, we all make mistakes. I'll end the video with some footage of the two legends joking around together.
The original jersey, and there's still mud in it here in the back, look.
Richard, you should take off the jumper.
Never washed it.
Jumper outside. Yeah.
That's the original.
Right now.
That is 1948,
Okay.
when I played for Munster schools against Connacht. I got one cap, and that's it. And I wouldn't. That's it. And I wouldn't give it up for anything. Fair play.
The Royal Navy have got me now.
You tackle well. Could we use you? We'll bring you on the last 5 minutes. If Foley fails,
You can be on the last 5 minutes. I'll be the referee.
excuse me a sec. Excuse me a sec.
I've only a short while to
Have you got
live.
your camera?
Don't
Have you got your camera? Put the camera down here. Look. I betted Mr. Gallagher today £100 that O'Toole will wear green socks. Have you ever worn anything else? All his life. Beginning of his career, he wears green socks.
We're at Twickenham straight up. They're going to kick off it.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the day.
My lords,